Did you know that every single year, thousands of Floridians get hit with hefty fines or even have their vehicles impounded simply because they misidentified their two-wheelers? It happens way more often than you'd think. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to walk through the exact step-by-step process of legally registering a moped in Florida. And getting this right isn't just about dodging fines, it's really about ensuring your legal protection and your compliance with state laws so you can actually hit the road with total peace of mind. We're going to show you exactly how to avoid some incredibly common and frankly very costly mistakes along the way. So I want to kick things off by asking you a question, and it's a critical one. Is your scooter actually an unregistered motorcycle? You see, a ton of people fall right into what we call the scooter trap. They go out, they buy this slick little two-wheeler, assuming it's just a simple moped. But a simple misunderstanding of Florida law can mean you are out there illegally driving an unregistered motorcycle without the proper license. The penalties for that can be pretty severe. So we're going to clear up that confusion right out of the gate. Here is our quick 6-step roadmap for today. We'll cover defining a Florida moped, your pre-registration checklist, the registration process itself, a breakdown of fees, maintaining upkeep, and finally, insurance and safety. All right, let's jump right into step 1, defining a Florida moped and avoiding that scooter trap. Let's start with the absolute most important step before you even think about grabbing your paperwork. We have to figure out what your vehicle actually is in the eyes of the law. Now, Florida is incredibly specific here. They really aren't messing around. According to Florida statutes section 320.0127, a moped is defined by a very strict mechanical test. It absolutely must have fully operable pedals. Its engine cannot exceed 50 cubic centimeters or 2 brake horsepower. It cannot go faster than 30 miles per hour on level ground. Plus, it needs a seat, an automatic transmission, and 3 wheels or less. Here's the kicker. If your vehicle misses even one of these criteria, like say it doesn't have pedals, or it randomly hits 35 miles per hour when you're going downhill, Florida law instantly reclassifies your ride. And this breakdown brilliantly illustrates that stark legal contrast between a true moped and a motor scooter. Notice that 30 miles per hour threshold right there. The exact moment your vehicle crosses that top speed or drops the requirement for pedals, you completely leave moped territory. That means suddenly you need a motorcycle endorsement on your license, a formal certificate of title, and totally different registration. So always verify your vehicle's true top speed and physical features before assuming it's a moped.
Moving right along to step 2, your pre-registration checklist, otherwise known as the paperwork.
Okay. Now that we know for sure you have a true moped, let's gather the necessary paperwork so you're totally prepared before you even step foot outside your house. Getting these 3 things in order is crucial. First, you must be at least 16 years old and hold a standard Class E driver's license. Remember, because it's a true moped, you do not need a motorcycle endorsement. Second, you'll need your proof of ownership. If the moped is brand new, this is your manufacturer's certificate of origin. If it's used, a formal bill of sale or the previous registration will do the trick perfectly. Third, just complete Form SMV 82040. You can easily download and print that right from the FLHSMV website ahead of time to save yourself a massive headache. I also just want to briefly mention, if you happen to be registering this moped under a commercial business entity rather than your own personal name, Florida does require a few extra documents. You'll need your federal employer identification number, a printout from Sunbays showing your business is listed as active, and if you aren't listed as an officer on that printout, you're going to need an authorized signatory letter on official corporate letterhead. Step 3, the registration process explained. Time for the actual DMV visit. So, with your paperwork meticulously organized, it's time to execute the registration process. But before you walk into the office, you have to understand this absolutely fantastic quirk of Florida law. Mopeds are classified strictly as registration-only vehicles. Let me repeat that. Florida does not issue certificates of title for true mopeds. This completely exempts you from the state standard titling requirements, which simplifies the whole process and honestly saves you money. So let's see how this actually plays out when you visit. Step 1. You do have to physically visit your local county tax collector's office or an authorized license plate agency. Initial registrations like this just can't be done online. Oh, and here's a pro tip. Check your county's website to schedule an appointment in advance so you can totally skip the waiting room. Step 2, you'll hand over your ID, your completed Form 8240, and your proof of ownership. The clerk is going to verify your vehicle's VIN and its equipment, like they will actually check that it has pedals. Step 3, pay your fees, and they will hand you your physical metal license plate and your validation decal right then and there. Which brings us nicely to step 4, breakdown of fees. Let's talk finances. Okay, everyone wants to know exactly where their money is going, right? Well, you'll find that moped registration is surprisingly affordable. Breaking it down, you can see the evergreen fee categories set by the state. Your base registration tax for a moped is an incredibly low $5 flat fee. On top of that, there's a mandatory $2.50 motorcycle safety education fee, which helps fund statewide rider education programs. Issuing a brand new metal plate is going to run you $28, and finally, expect a really small county convenience fee, usually just between $2 and $4, depending on exactly where you live in the state. But listen up, because here is the absolute best news of this entire explainer. When you buy a car or a motorcycle and you register it for the very first time in Florida, you get hit with a hefty $225 initial registration surcharge. But because you are registering a true moped, meaning you kept that engine at 50cc or below, you are entirely exempt from this massive fee. Literally, you don't pay it. It is a huge financial advantage. Moving to step 5. Maintaining moped registration, the long-term upkeep. Getting your plate is an awesome feeling for sure, but that's really just the beginning. Here's what you need to know about the long-term upkeep. For active upkeep, your moped registration and decal must be renewed annually with the FLHSMV. Honestly, just save yourself a trip and use the state's MyDMV online portal to do this from your couch. Now, retiring a moped? That is a totally unique process. If your moped breaks down permanently, you can't just sign the title over to a junkyard, because remember, you don't have a title. To officially cancel your ownership and avoid any future penalties, you absolutely must physically surrender the metal license plate back to a tax collector's office, or you have to file a formal tag surrender affidavit if the plate happens to be lost or destroyed. And finally, step 6, insurance and safety considerations, staying legal on the road. All right, your paperwork is done, your plate is bolted on. Let's quickly cover the actual rules of the road and how to protect yourself once you're riding. Because a moped is officially a slow-moving vehicle, Florida strictly regulates where you can ride it. You are completely banned from interstate highways, no exceptions, those are reserved for faster vehicles. You're also banned from riding on bicycle paths and sidewalks. When you're out on public roads, you must ride as close to the right edge of the roadway as possible. And safety-wise, if the rider or any passenger is under 16 years old, a properly fitting DOT helmet is legally required by the state. Now for a question we see constantly. Do you actually need insurance? Well, legally, no. Florida does not legally require insurance to operate a 50cc moped. However, legal experts strongly recommend getting voluntary liability coverage anyway. Florida operates under what's called comparative negligence laws. Basically, that means if you're in an accident, having insurance protects you from some potentially devastating financial liabilities. Experts really recommend looking into basic bodily injury liability and uninsured motorist coverage. And hey, while we're on the topic of safety, even though helmets are only required if you're under 16, investing in a good DOT helmet, a proper riding jacket, and some gloves is just a really, really smart move. Before we wrap this up, we just want to provide our standard professional reminder. This explainer is designed to give you a really comprehensive guide based on current Florida statutes. But as we all know, laws, fees, and regulations can and do change over time. You should always verify current requirements directly with the FLHSMV or your local tax collector's office, just to guarantee you have the most up-to-date information. Well, there you have it. You now have the exact roadmap to confidently and legally register your moped in Florida. You know how to avoid the dreaded scooter trap, you've got your paperwork checklist, and you know exactly what it's all going to cost. So, I have to ask, now that you know the rules, where is your first legally registered moped road trip going to take you? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay safe out there and enjoy the ride.